Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Satisfactory 1.2. Okay, in the last game, we left off building this coal power plant, and you might have already noticed that there's some changes here, cosmetic changes, really. So what I did was I played a little bit off camera and just kind of fixed things up. I didn't do any major progression or anything like that. It was just purely cosmetic stuff, going back and fixing and cleaning up things, making things look a little bit prettier. Let's go ahead and do a little tour of the coal power plant again. So we also have this little door that lets us in, which is pretty cool. And you'll notice we got windows here. We also have these staircases, right, with these rails. So all of this stuff can be unlocked in the awesome shop. Just have to have enough coupons for it. So hopefully you've been doing some exploring and you've been going to the swamp and picking up those turbo engines. However, if you did download the save game from the description, that was already done for you. So you'll also be able to download this save game as well. So in our logistics floor here, the major thing I did was fix up the pipes here. They're no longer spaghetti pipes. They're nice and straight and even and uniform. And some things I added here, obviously the roof, right, and the walls. All right, outside here, you can see that I fixed up the pipes. They're no longer spaghettified. They're nice and straight. But yeah, that is the power plant. And again, if you don't want to like do these cosmetic changes yourself, again, you get the save game in the description, or there will be a link for you to download the save game in the description for this episode. So yeah, the focus of this game or this episode is to produce the steel factory and start producing those materials that we need to unlock the tier 4 and also to progress in the phase. All right, and over here in our factory you'll see that I also made some cosmetic changes here. So first of all, we added all this foundation stuff. Then also I got rid of that ramp and we got this nice little staircase that goes up. You always want a manual way, because what you don't want happening is you don't have any steel plate or concrete and you can't make any foundations. So you just have to essentially tear everything down. You also notice that I moved some things around here. So now our awesome sink is here. And then we added some more storage containers here. And then we still got the MAM equipment shop. We got our awesome shop here. And then we have the hub here. And then we go through here. And then we have the space elevators. So that's what I did there. And then we also added the standalone assembler, constructor, and smelter here. But I think that's all the changes that I made here. You can see like our miner is kind of sticking up here, which is a little bit weird, but that's okay. But yeah, that's pretty much all the changes that I made so far. All right, but anyways, we're here to do steel production. But before we do steel production, let's go to the MAM here. And let's go to alien technology. And so what I want are these dimensional depots, right? And the reason for that is I don't have to like go back and forth to my factory storage containers to get materials. We can put them in these dimensional depots and we can be anywhere on the map and we can get those materials. So if we run out of like steel plate, no problem. As long as we're keep feeding steel plate into these dimensional depots from our factory, we'll always have access there. So yeah, let's do that. Let's go and grab us some SAM resources, some materials. Also, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and like the video and also subscribe. I really appreciate the support, and it also helps you out to know when new content is available, and you definitely don't want to miss more episodes of Satisfactory, especially if you're trying to build your own factory and you're using this as a walkthrough. So you definitely want to make sure you're subscribed so you know when new episodes of Satisfactory come out. Okay, so in order to find the SAM, we're in this area of the map here, right? So this like kind of, it looks like a land bridge. What you want to do is just go around here this way. But anyways, so we're here and you can see like these leaves on the cliffs here. Let me actually go ahead and show you on the map where I'm at right now. All right, so if you come down here, you can see there's some cracks right there. So what you want to do, throw an obelisk on this cracked rock here. Oh, these are the small guys. They're not too bad. It's the larger ones that are really scary because they make this like hideous screeching sound and they jump at you and ugh, I hate that. I hate it. We need to be able to blow this up here so we can get our sand material. There we go. Now we have a SAM node. Oh, there it is. Hello. Jesus Christ, that scared me. Cool. So we got our SAM node here, and so we want to be able to extract this. Lay down a miner here. And of course, we need electricity to run this, and I didn't bring a power pole, so I'll have to do that. But yeah, we want to do that, and then, and actually, you know what? What we could do first is lay down some portable miners, and I think I only have one. I'll just collect some of this up so we can take some to the MAM, and then we can unlock some stuff. And while we're waiting for that, there's another cracked wall here. So we'll throw an obelisk on that. Guess we could turn the flashlight on, huh? Yep, there they are. Just gonna take them out afar with the railgun. Yeah, they were guarding a purple slug here. But we love purple power slugs. So we want to get that. Oh, there's another guy in here. You know, I'm not going to show much exploring around in this game. However, you can use the interactive map. I'll leave a link in the description for you to access the interactive map. And then you can just figure out where these things are yourselves. All right, let's go ahead and grab our SAM resource. And we'll go ahead and go back to our MAM. Actually, we don't need to do that. We can build a MAM here. I keep forgetting we could do that. But first of all, let's just unlock this. Okay, and then we'll also want to research the SAM reanimation. Okay, so we need to build a crafting bench, like so. So now you can do reanimated SAM, and I think we needed 10 of these. So let's make those, and then we can go back here. And then we can, well, we need steel pipe for that, so we'd have to go to the base. But we need to go back to the base anyway, so we can bring a power line here. So I'll be back once I have all of that. Okay, well, this is awkward. I thought I had steel pipe, but apparently I used it all to make nobelisks. So we got two things we can do. Either we can do some more exploring and see if we can find any more steel pipe, or we just wait until after we produce the steel factory. I'll leave the choice up to you whether you want to do some more exploring, find more hard drives, because some hard drive sites are probably going to have some more steel pipe around them. I think for the sake of the walkthrough, we're just going to start on the steel factory here and get that going, and then we can unlock the SAM stuff. So in order to start our steel production, we need to actually unlock basic steel production. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, that is basic steel production to be ready to launch. Okay, so we can do modular frames in here. There we go. And our assembler is producing more modular frames for us. I'm pretty sure we're going to need some, because let's look at foundry here. Production, foundry, yeah. So foundries need the modular frames. So, and we can shove these into here, and that will increase our production rate. All right, we got the bare minimum modular frames that we need to go ahead and start building our steel factory. Okay, so here we are in the area that we're going to be creating our steel factory. So here we are on the map. So where this pit was, that's where we're going to be doing it. So we have all the materials that we need. We have a coal node here, and then hog remains. We got coal nodes here. I think 3 of them, so we should have 3. So 1, 2, and then I think there's another coal node over there. And then we have limestone here. We'll need the limestone because we need to make some concrete for the encased iron beams. I mean, steel beams. And then we have a normal here, so we could get at least 120 out of that. At most 120 out of that. And then another normal here, so we can get at least 120 out of that. So we got 2 120 iron nodes here. What I want to do is kind of like bring these all together and form a belt that's going to go over in this area where the coal is at. And there's also a copper node over there, but we're not going to be doing anything with the copper. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our foundations all set up. And we want this on the world grid, so just remember, if you... Well, it doesn't have to be on the... Well, yeah, it actually does need to be on the world grid, because we want to hook this up to our main factory at some point. So we want this on the world grid. So you just do that by pushing control, and that snaps to the grid. They'll partially cover up the node. That should be fine. Okay, I'm gonna have another slab going this way. We'll just bring it out all the way here. And then what we want to do is make sure we could clear that hill there. So I'm just going to swap out for the 4 meter here. And do vertical. Just so it's enough that we can get over this hill cleanly. And then we also need to attach our concrete node here. And we should be able to put another Mark 1 miner down here. Oh, I think I forgot to grab my power shards. Yeah, I need to grab my power shards so we can overclock these. Oh yeah, that should be good. Well, let's just start building it out. Either way, just like get a 10 by 10 grid like this up. And then make sure we're not covering the node here. And then we'll just use some 4 meter foundation. Okay, so I'm going to use a 2 foundation again. I'm just going to nudge it down like 1, like that. Do that. There we go. How much coal does that produce? 60. Okay. Let's also come over here. And let's give these guys some power shards. I think they need at least 2 so we can get 120 out of them. Okay, yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually turn this around. Here we go. And this will... We want to make sure this is 120. We need to add more power. We need to add power shards here. We can boost this to 120. But I do want to actually bring this out over here. The only way to be like extra certain is to build one of these sky bridges. Make sure everything's on the same level. So this is going to take me a while to do. Okay, yeah, so this is the level we want our steel factory to be on. So that's the same with that way. And the reason for that is so we can use the trucks and we don't have to worry about making hills, ramps, and things that don't line up or anything. I mean, I mean, you could, it's fine if you do it that way, but like if you do it this way, then, you know, trying to build like a giant factory city, you know, so this is probably overkill doing it this way, but shwhatevs. So let me get rid of this extra foundation here that we don't need. Okay, so as you can see, I got this foundation floating in the air here. So this is actually the same height as our factory, our starter base over there. So that this is where I want to be putting my steel factory on. Nice. And then we just want to make sure this is overclocked to 120. Sure that comes up just like that. I'm debating whether we should put our foundries down here on this floor or up here. I think we got enough vertical space. We could put our foundries up here. And then we can close it off. That would be a pretty cool aesthetic. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we should have enough space for belts. If we want, we could probably just if we do need more space, we do still have quite a bit of space here between the limestone and to the main foundation. So now what we need to do is decide, and we'll do steel ingot here. That gives us 45. But again, remember we have to clock it down. So if we do 120 divided by 6, and then 20 divided by 45. So each of our machines need to be locked down. Well, so we want the steel recipe, but we want target production rate to be 20 for now, until we get the Mark III belts. And then Control C to copy, and then you can paste it to the other foundries here. We have 6 foundries. We're underclocking them to produce only 20 steel ingots per minute. And that's because we can only do at maximum 120 iron ore and coal at the same time, and we need the same amount of iron ore and coal being fed into the foundries here. So we'll only be able to produce about 20 steel ingots per minute. And this is going to be for our coal, and this is going to be for our iron. So I want to keep the iron on the floor here, but then the coal, we'll need to use a conveyor for the coal. And because we're only doing 20 per minute, we can use the Mark I lifts here. So get a splitter here, and then I want it aligned here, and then I'm going to push the H button. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 nudges. So, and then this, we want this to be a Mark II lift. See, this is why you don't do the belts until you actually, to the miner over to the factory, until you actually know where things are going to line up. So, okay, we want to do the same thing with these other machines here. So again, line those up here, push H, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again here. Okay, and then you can go ahead and add the Mark I lifts here. Okay, but we also want splitters going this way for our iron. We're going to keep them in the center, but we want them lined up here like this. Okay, all of our iron splitters are done. And actually, we don't need the last splitter here. Same thing over here. We don't need the last splitter. We just need the conveyor, or the conveyor lift, I should say. This is a pro tip here. You can use this tower to kind of get a bird's eye view of everything. And then we could start adding our belts. And we're going to be using Mark 1s for these, because as soon as you split them, the first split here is 60, and so we can use a Mark 1 throughout here. But then when we get the Mark 3 belts, then we'll want to use the Mark 2s. But for now, Mark 1s will work. Okay, so now that we have everything hooked up into the machines here, now we could start adding our belt from the miners into the foundries here. So again, we want this to be Mark 2. Bring this out. Ow. Like a glove. Fit pretty well. And then let's go out here, connect the belt. And another thing I forgot was power. I forgot to bring power over here. Make sure we're using the Mark 2s and straight. And then I'm just gonna bring this here in the center, but I want to make sure this is hugging here, so that we have room for all of our belt. Hopefully that's right. We'll find out soon enough. So yeah, this is probably going to be slightly misaligned here, but that's okay. We're using this, okay. Yeah, we just want to make sure we're using the Mark IIs. That's a little misaligned, but that's okay. Okay, so that's our first 6 foundries. Well, almost. We need to add mergers here now and merge everything together. I'm going to actually bring our foundation here then. So that's a bit closer. That way we have a little bit more room for our output belt. And then actually what I could do so that this isn't weird, this isn't weird and misaligned, is I could just bring this out here. And let's just get rid of all of this belt. Cool, so now bring a Mark II out, and we'll just should be able to snake it in, overlapping another object clearance. I wonder if we can actually do this. So let's remove the splitter there. Get a new splitter. Can actually probably just do it like this. And reconnect those. All right, very nice. Okay, so that's one row of foundries almost set up. We still need to do the mergers here. And I'm going to put them in the center of the foundation here. So it's going to be a little tight. And I want the output direction going this way. That's why we gave ourselves a bit more room, so that the output can go on this foundation. Our steel output can, it could be here. And then our input stuff can be on the outside. It'll all make sense when I have everything built out. So you get a merger, you get a merger, and you get a merger. And actually, we don't need this merger over here. Okay, so since each foundry is only going to be making 20, we could use the Mark 1. But so now we got 20, 20. This is 40. And then when we merge, so now that we have 3 machines merged in. Now we're making 60. So we can still use the Mark 1 here, but now got 20, 40, 60, and 80 after connecting this. So we need to use the Mark II after this machine. But we can still use the Mark 1s to connect machines here. Okay, so now that everything is, these foundries are set up, we can now do our another 6 foundries. And I think I'm going to give like I'm going to give one foundation of space here between the 2 foundries. So the splitters will go here, essentially. All right, now we can bring the other iron belt over. That way we have room for the output, which will be our steel ingots right here. But also don't forget we got this top platform too. So one thing we could do is just have this floor be the, you know, concrete steel ingot production, and then this floor up here, that could be our actual this is where we'll be making our actual steel products. So we could do it that way for sure. And just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna bring this out to there. An easy thing we could do here is just move this down here like that. There we go. Now all we have to worry about is connecting it to those conveyor lifts. Get you out here. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. One thing we could do is do a splitter, actually. Put it right here. And we could do... We want a Mark II. Actually, no. We want to do it like this. But we want to make sure it's aligned. You'll see what I'm trying to do here in a second. Let's just do it like that. Yeah, and then we need another splitter here. We also got to do the nudge. Make sure they're aligned. We got to use the fine nudge. There we go. Now you can get rid of the splitters. Get the belts. There we go. And we also want to make sure this is a Mark II. All right, cool. And I'm also going to just do the power. I'm not going to connect the power yet. But I will just put the power poles here and get things connected. We could put the wall right next to the conveyors. And then if you unlock these, which by the way, if you haven't unlocked them, no big deal, because if you use the link to download the save game in the description, then these should be unlocked, those outlets. Okay, we almost got our foundries set up. We just need to add the mergers now over here. All right, foundries are set up. Now what I want to do is make like concrete plant. So we do get 120 concrete. So just like with the concrete plant that we have back at base, we'll have to split these up evenly. We'll have to probably underclock the machines until we can unlock the Mark III belt. Yeah, so it needs 45 limestone a minute. And remember, we're doing 120 from that belt. So let's see if these max out at 45. What happens if we use a Mark III belt, which is 270? If we do 270 divided by 45, that gives us 6 again. So Yeah, we definitely we want 6 constructors again for the concrete, but we'll have to clock them down. So just like with the foundries, I'm gonna leave another empty space here, and then we'll have our splitters here for the limestone, and then we'll do our concrete here. I think I do need like one more row of foundation here though, just to make sure we got plenty of space. You always want to give yourself extra real estate, more real estate than you think you need. More than what you think you're gonna need. Actually, what I want to do here is take off this belt, take this off, take that, and what I want to do is we're gonna have, I want a wall again here. Same thing here. We'll do that. And then, yeah, we'll just use these, go to logistics, we'll use these conveyor holes again. We'll have to fix this belt. And then we'll do the same thing for this. We'll put this back in here. Do the same thing for this guy. Nice. So that way it makes it appear like stuff's going inside our factory rather than, you know, just having it willy-nilly. Okay, let's coming back to our constructors here. Just gonna set up the splitters. And we can use Mark 1s all the way down here because remember, once we split them, these become 60. But then when we do upgrade to the Mark 3 270 belt, then we'll have to upgrade all of these to the Mark 2s. Okay, finally we can add the Mark 2s here. As long as we got enough belt. There we go. All right, well, the last thing we need to do on this bottom floor is the power poles. So I'll go ahead and connect those. And actually what we could do, well, instead of using poles, since I'm planning on doing a second floor anyways, let's actually just build out the second floor here. Maybe what we can do, since we need to do it anyways, bring this down all the way. And then we could build our ladder. Now we should be able to reach the top floor. Nice. This will make it easier. All right, now we got the foundation done on the top here. Okay, so each foundry right now is going to output 120 steel ingots. But I want to make sure, I want to see what the max is. 45. So it's kind of like these were set up for Mark III belts. So we want to just keep that in the back of our mind that everything's 45. So 6 times 45, that's 270. So as long as we follow the rule of sixes here, or, you know, if we just assume that we're going to do 270 in the near future, we just want to make sure to build like our machines that are going to make products out like that. It'll make sense when I show it to you, but right now it doesn't make sense. Don't worry about it. Okay, and we'll just start off with the Mark 1s again. You could do the Mark 2s if you wanted to, but I want to save up on reinforced iron plate. We'll have to come back and upgrade these anyways. Okay, so before we go any further, I want to set the recipes here. And we want concrete. But we want to do So this says 15 per minute, but we want to make sure. You know what? Why don't I just do the calculator here? All right, let's do this. So 20 divided by 45 is 44444. So we want 44.4444444444. That's what we want, 6.67. So that means we can do 20 in, and then we get about 6 out. And then once we upgrade to the Mark III, then we can finally get the 15 out. So do that for now. So I want to copy that and paste it over to these machines. Okay, so we should have 20 coming out here, and then another 20 coming out here. So we got 40, 60, 80. So now we need to use the Mark IIs again here. And why not? We'll just use the Mark IIs there as well. They're all going to need to be, well, no. We'll keep the Mark 1s. Because these will at max output 15, so having the Mark IIs there on the outputs just way too much overkill. Now we just need to figure out where we want to output all of this. So we can output this. We're going to put a hole there. Put a hole there. And then we'll put a hole there. Easy peasy. And we'll want to use the Mark II conveyor lifts for these. Because the output is going to be 120 for the ingots. But not for the concrete, but we'll do the Mark II anyways. Mark II's, what's that output? 6.67 times 640. That's all we're going to be producing? Okay, I'll just use the Mark I then. And actually, I was wrong. These don't do 20s. These do 15. So we got 15, 30, 45, and then 60 here. And then... So we don't need the Mark II there. We can continue with the Mark I, but we need the Mark II there because after 60 will be 75 and then 90. So at max, yeah, we do need the Mark II. So sorry for going back and forth here. Let's just do the Mark II and then it'll be future proof. Or let's future proof it with the Mark II. Well, that's not going to work. What are you doing? What is going on here? There's some weirdness happening. Oh, did I not put this in? I probably didn't put this in right. Yeah, see, it's pointing outward. So in order to flip that, just push the R button. Now it's inwards. There we go. Yep, same thing here. How did I... Probably the same thing here as well. Got to pay attention to the arrows. Normally it just points inward. Now, what I was saying before, why we don't need the power pools is what we can do since I've unlocked these wall outlets. We could just put the wall outlets up here on the ceiling. We could connect our machines. like that. And then you gotta make sure you connect them together like that. And then another thing we could do is build up our wall like that. Want another wall like that. And we can use these double wall outlets. Actually, I want the wall here. And then double wall outlet right here. And then we can connect this to this guy. That way, so now we have power going outside to our miners here. For the miners, I will use poles. And once again, I forgot to bring power from the main factory to here. But actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll nab it from the coal power plant directly instead of having to go through the starter base over to here. Okay, first floor is completed. We got our steel ingots. We should be able to make the steel ingots down here, and also the concrete for the encased concrete, or encased steel beams rather. All right, so now let's go up top side and figure out what machines we need for each steel product. All right, so the first product I want to produce, which I believe you could produce in the structure. Yep, steel beams. So that takes in 60 per minute. And then how much do we need for steel pipe? 30 per minute. So we could probably do like 6 machines and then just underclock these to 45 per minute. So that way that works with the Mark IIIs. That will give us 6 machines, but right now we can only do 120. So 120 divided by 6 is 20. So I'll have to, when we make the steel beams, we'll have to underclock them to produce 20 ingots. Or to receive 20 ingots. Okay, so each machine can do 5 and produce 5 beams per minute, but we'll still have 6. So 6 times 5, that's about 30. Yeah, 6 times 5, that's 30. So we'll be making 30. We'd be making that anyways if we had 2 at 60. So, all right, let's do that. That's our plan of attack. So here's where we're getting the steel. This is where we'll be getting the steel for the beams. And we got all this real estate over here. So what we could do is make the constructors this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 6. And then to like completely ramp these up for 60. So we need 60, 120, 240, 240, and then 360. Yeah, the Mark IVs do 480. So we can max all of these out. It's just we need to upgrade to the Mark IVs. So once we do upgrade to the Mark IVs, that would be a good time to come back, revisit this, and ramp all of these up so it can really ramp up our steel beam production. But anyways, I rambled on way too long, so let's get this set up. Put a splitter here. So we need to start with a Mark II lift. and a Mark II belt. But then after it gets split, it splits into 60. We can use Mark 1s all the way down. And I also forgot to set the recipes. So we want steel beam, but we want to only be making 5. Okay, so we just want to copy that setting and paste it on all these. Okay, so all these should now be configured properly. Okay, and we got enough real estate on both sides here. We can essentially output them either way. So we'll get our mergers in. We don't need a merger for the last machine. Or the first machine, I should say. Okay, for now, we're only going to get at max 5. So we can do... I mean, at max 30. So we can do Mark 1s all around here. We'll put 1 right there. Set the recipe. Okay, so we can do 24, 80%. So we just lock these down to 80%. And then just double checking, 24 times 5 is 120. Then for 270, we'll need 9. But we'll have 10 constructors. So we'll have to underclock those once we get them. So we'll just have to underclock them by 90%, right? Because we'll just do 9 divided by 10, 90%. So, yep. So let's do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the way that I stack them is we'll just get a wall. Let's put a wall. We'll go 3 high there. We'll do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll just use... We'll use the regular foundation. Bring that across. Just like that. And then we'll have another foundation up there. And then another foundation here on the top. And then I also need a way up there, so I need the ladder again. But I'll I drop one of those machines on the bottom here. And we'll put 5 up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that should be steel as well. Cool. But we won't actually run these machines until we actually get the Mark II miners and the Mark III belts. So we won't do anything with them for now. So what I also want to do is get these outlets, and you can put these outlets here like so, above the power thingy of the constructor. And then get your cable, connect them just like that. And you can connect them together. And then you can also use the double wall outlet. And I'm going to put it on either side. And this is something we're going to be doing a lot. Stacking the machines up like this. So get used to it. All right, all those are hooked up. And again, we're not going to do the ones on top yet. Until we upgrade. They'll just be there, be an eyesore until we're able to upgrade our belt speed and our miners. Okay, and just like over here, we want to get the splitters. set up here. Put our conveyor lifts. We need to use the Mark II here, though. And this actually needs to be a Mark II. There we go. Yeah, very easy to make that mistake. So just make sure you're using the correct lifts and belts. Okay, and then we just want to grab us a merger here and merge all these together. I'm going to have the output going to the left on this side once again. Actually, how much is that? So 16 times 5, 80. Okay, so we'll be producing 80 steel pipe. And how many steel beams? I think it's 30. Okay, so 30 steel beams, 80 pipe so far. Now comes the interesting part, which is going to be the encased steel beams. And for that, I think we need assemblers. The trick is, how many assemblers do we need? All right, let's see what we need for advanced steel production. Yeah, so this is where we get the Mark II miner. And Logistics 3 is where we get the Mark III belt and the industrial storage container and the stackable pipeline support. So that'll be cool. Oh yeah, after we unlock these, then we can also upgrade our coal power. Okay, before I put the final power thing in, I'm just gonna build a wall here. I want to at least make this look somewhat like a factory, right? And then we'll just use one of these double wall outlets. Put it in the center there. And we'll connect our power. Then we'll connect our power from there to there. Now we have the power. So let's do that, actually. And I also just want to disconnect from here, first of all. Mostly because I want to break free, but I also want to start up the miners before I start up any of the machines. So I'm going to use one of these wall outlets. Actually, let me do this. Get the cable and then add a wall outlet. Can I just add? Oh, nice. Okay, so now the coal is going to start up. And then temporarily, I'm just going to use poles, I guess, for now. There we go. So now our miners over here are online. All right, we got coal being fed in to the foundries. We got our limestone coming. 120 per minute there. Here comes the iron ore. All right, here comes the iron ore. And this doesn't look right. Let me double check. Since this is a 120 belt, it doesn't look like we're getting 120. It looks like we're getting 60. So let me make sure these are 120, actually. Nope, they're not. There we go. Now we're at 120. Yep, I forgot to add the power shards to these. Now we're doing 120. Yeah, I just want to make sure the belts get full up here. All right, I'm going to actually turn on the concrete. We actually didn't put power poles on the concrete yet. So actually, let me do this then. All right, guess that's not working out. There we go. I want the outlet. So we could turn our concrete machines on. Start getting those full up. And also we could start turning on our foundries here. It also means we can connect this to that. And so we don't need these anymore. I didn't add power to these foundries yet, so I need to do that. Yep, so we need to connect these to power. And we can actually put a wall here. Like this. Let's make it a... Let's do it like that. And then... No. I think we could... No, what I want is a double wall outlet. Like that. And there should be a wall outlet. Yep, right there. We'll just connect it to there. And then we'll just connect this to that. Now let's start up all these machines. And we can connect this to that. Now let's start up all these machines. So for the time being... And these are already gobbling up all these steel ingots. So essentially what we want to do is store these. So let's get a storage container. So that's all we can do for now. I'm just going to use the Mark II. Why not? Now we're getting our steel beams and steel pipes. All right, steel pipes. Won't take very long to get steel pipes going. This one's already idling, probably because we don't have enough ingots. Yeah. So we want to wait until these like ramp up fully. And just keep an eye on it. And we should be getting beams here. Nice. Nice. Yay, now we can finally unlock these. SAM fluctuators. And I don't know... So I don't think you can construct these in the equipment shop, can you? Or the crafting bench. I thought you could. Yeah, right here, SAM fluctuator. Needs wire, steel pipe, and more reanimated SAM. There we go. We're back at the SAM site. Now we can hook our power up here. Get a constructor going. And we'll have this make... Oh, reanimated SAM. That needs 120 per minute. How much does this produce? 30. Wow. Can we get it up to 120? 75. Let's just do 60 per minute. And then we'll just clock this down to half. Wow, that's weird. All right, and then we just need a storage container. So we can start storing our snoring. So we can start storing our SAM. Reanimated SAM. Huh, that's interesting. So you could do like a pause production if you wanted to. If you wanted to. It looks like the belt's running smoothly now. All right, so we'll do one there. So this one's going to be an interesting design. And we want the Mark II lift here. Mark II belt. Mark 1. But we also want the splitters again. But pointed this way. Because this is the direction our beams are going to be headed. Do H there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. 37.037. It may still get backed up, but that's... I guess that's a configuration we want. Paste that there, paste that there, paste that there. And then we'll just have a merger. We can have our merger going this way, I think. Now let's have it output this way. Because the steel beam is going to come this way and it's going to get in the way of the output here. So let's output it this way. You'll see what I mean when it's done. Of course, that's not aligned, so I gotta nudge it to align it. Okay, so we're only going to be making roughly 6 encased beam per minute. I'll get another first container. All right, let's do this then. Here we go. And then will be for our steel beams. We'll do that. Oh, I think I know what the problem is, because remember, these take in 20 per minute. They don't take in 60 per minute. So we needed Mark IIs until after this guy. After this one. Here, same thing with the iron. That's why it was backing up. Because this is 20. This is 20, so that's 40. And this is 60. But then after that, so these needed Mark IIs until... Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's where the bottleneck is, because we were putting less than what the belt was supporting, so that's why. That makes sense. Now we're getting a steady stream in. All right, so now we just need to do that for the other one here. Because yeah, this is 20, this is 40, and then this is 60. So all of these need a Mark II belt. At least the first 3 here need a Mark II. And then everything else could be a Mark I. Yeah, because this is only taking in 24. So we probably also need a Mark II belt here until we get up to 60. Good thing I caught that. It gets frustrating when you don't understand like what the problem is. A lot of times the bottlenecks are just like the belts, but you also don't want to just throw belts around thinking that's gonna solve the problem. Did I use a Mark 1? Oh, that's probably why I'm using a Mark 1 here. I knew that. There, now things Shouldn't be getting backed up. And mark 1 like that. And mark 1 belt over there. And then these guys are going to need power. So let's get some power for this guy. For these guys. So yeah, we're only making 30 beams per minute. And these need 6.66. That's 20. So we're only left over with 10 steel beams. But hey, at least we're making the casing now. Put one there. All right, let's see what we need for logistics 3. Okay, we just need the beams, pipes, and the enhanced iron plate. So we can do that one. All right, logistics mark 3. Let's go. Okay, let me go check on the SAM stuff. All right, so yeah, gonna take us a while to get the get everything converted into the Mark III, especially if we're only storing 10 steel beams a minute. So yeah. In the meantime, though, well, so maybe the steel beam is what we need to upgrade first. Actually, the production of that. So upgrading the miner and then upgrading the steel beams. Getting that all upgraded so that way we can produce more steel beams and getting those stored. So that's probably, I would say that would be a good idea. So it'd be really nice if we could get those dimensional depots so we don't have to run back and forth everywhere. Like we're doing currently with the steel factory. So how much of this stuff have we produced? Oh, quite a bit. Well, let's actually just grab all that we can and take it back. Yeah, and another thing I want to get is this vehicular transport. So that way we could have the truck stations and the tractor, and we also get 3 more inventory slots unlocking this. So let's do that. Oh, no, I need 1 more in a Mercer Sphere to unlock that. But I could do alien energy harvesting, so let's do that. And what do I need for this? I do have the circuit boards. All right, we could finally unlock that. Trying to decide here. Do I want more depot expansion, or do I want this? I guess I could do both, right? I just need 94 fluctuators. I should have enough to upgrade our depots here. All right, we got that one. And we got that one. Okay, so dimensional depots need 1 Mercer Sphere, 10 SAM fluctuators, 10 modular frames, and then copper wires. So we can definitely go back to... So let's go ahead and add dimensional depot up here, like that. There we go. Now we should have some uploaded in the dimensional depot. Okay, so you can see in our dimensional depot, we got cable, we got iron plate, iron rods, and concrete filling up. So now we don't need to go back and forth as much anymore. Okay, so I'll just grab some steel pipe here and start upgrading beltage and conveyor lifts. I just want to prioritize this one because that's our steel beam. So make that a Mark III. And it's fine if you're using a faster belt speed here. It's not going to make a huge difference until you know, upgrade the miner and then upgrade your factory. So it's not going to like back up at all or anything. You'll still be 120 per minute. Make all these Mark IIIs. And naturally, because we'll be making more ingots, we're going to want to upgrade the belts here as well. We'll just do all of them Mark IIIs there, and then this can be Mark II. Probably overkill for this, but yeah. And then this could be a Mark III. And down here, this could be a Mark III. And these can be Mark IIIs all around. Just to be on the safe side. Okay, so now we can increase these up to 45 per minute, which will give us, that gives us 100%. So go ahead and copy that. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have upgraded the miners first. So let's do that. I just need the encased industrial beam. All right, we'll make sure we're at 270 there. There we go. And now we just need to increase our industrial beams. Okay, now we can 100% all of these. No, because we can't 100% them because 270 times divided by 45 is 6. So these need a we just need 45 per minute, which I think that's 70%, right? 75? Yeah, 75. So now we'll just make sure that's happening. We'll just copy that and then paste it to these machines. Now we're making 11.25 per minute. So 11.25 times 6 is 67. So we need Mark IIs. This can no longer be a Mark I. It's got to be Mark II. Otherwise, stuff's going to get backed up. We'll do Mark IIs all around here. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just trying to figure out, can we make the truck station? We sure can. All right, there we go. 3 truck stations. But anyways, you can go into the customization, go into materials and do asphalt now. All right, asphalt has been laid down. So one of the reasons why I'm building it this way, the truck stations, is so that it can be easily expandable. Although, you know, if we put a wall around all of this, it's not going to be very expandable. So we'll just leave this space kind of like open now and open for expandability. And then like this part of the steel factory will be walled up to make it look pretty. But we could definitely put like a wall above our truck stations, which actually we're going to do anyways because we need fuel and fire and that which I desire. You'll see why we want a overhead roof like this. And just for symmetry, we'll just do that as well. One more wall there. All right, so what I want to do is get a conveyor lift. And we'll just use a Mark 1. This is just for the fuel. We're going to bring it all the way up there. Actually, I don't want to do it like that. We're going to bring it here. We'll have to replace these anyways because what I want to do is put splitters up here next to them. Like so. And we could feed our Mark 1 belts in here. And this one actually didn't need a splitter, so we can just remove that. That one's at a weird angle, so we had to use the default belt there. Okay, so this is going to be our fuel belt. But we do want to have a belt here. We'll just do it like that for one of our resources. But then the other ones we're going to move like that. You'll see here why in a minute. Okay, so now I want 3 conveyor holes. One right there, one right there, one right there. So our first belt's going to go into here. Second belt's going to go here. We got to use default, looks like. I do have these ceiling ones. The ceiling belt holders, so I'm able to do this. And then our third belt will just go in like that. Okay, and you may have already guessed it, but so we got our fuel belt, and then we have one belt for each resource that we're gonna have. For that we have the industrial base beams. That's probably going to be the easiest one to do, because that just goes right there. Okay, it's a little spaghettified, but here's what I did. I just put the pipes through the first conveyor here, and then I used a conveyor lift for the steel beams in the second conveyor here, and then encased industrial beams in the third here. I still need to get some pole to connect to there. But here's our truck stations now. I did connect the power up in here. So we got our power nodes here. And so we got power connected. Very nice. And so the truck stations also act as storage. So, ooh, steel beam shouldn't be in there. That's okay. We'll just fix this up. Yeah, so these store quite a bit. So these can act as more storage. And then we can keep the storage containers here. Eventually, I'll want like a dimensional depot for some of these. And I believe this is an impure node here, which that is fine. The wall hole here. We'll bring a Mark 1 down here. And this will fuel our tractors. No. This will fuel our tractors when they come visit our factory. There we go. Alright, we already got some coal coming in. Alright, so now we just need to bring this coal over. We'll point it this way. I want it this way. Reverse. Like that. There we go. Now we really don't have room for an awesome sink. Not an awesome sink. Yeah, an awesome sink. Or do we? Let's see. Yeah, because we need to put the awesome sink there. So maybe we'll have enough space. This looks like we'll have enough space. Just barely, though. Yeah, this is a little bit spaghettified. You know, like I said, you want to make sure you give yourself enough real estate. In this case, probably could have condensed this a little bit more. All right, and here is the steel factory with walls and everything. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but better than just leaving it as just platforms and whatnot. But you know, I'm definitely going above and beyond my first playthrough of this game. It was just, all I did was just put things on platforms. I didn't use walls, windows, or anything. So, but you know, little cosmetics is pretty nice. But yeah, this is our steel factory now. And let's go ahead and go on a little tour here. First, let's start off with the miners. So we have our limestone miner here. And then we have our iron ore miners over there. And then we have 270 on this Mark III belt going to our steel beam production. And then we have this 120 belt going to our iron rod production. I don't know why this is backwards. That's interesting. But yep, this is our miners. So now let's go into the factory, and I've given multiple entry points into the factory just so, you know, no matter where we're at heading into the factory, there's always going to be some sort of entrance in there. But let's use this entrance. And so yeah, our subfloor here is where all of our foundries are. So we're producing our steel ingots here in these foundries. And over here is our concrete production. So we got all of our constructors producing concrete. So that's at 100% there. And it should also be at 100%, hopefully. Yeah. Same thing with our steel production. So 100% on that machine, and we should have 100 on this. So through and through 100%. So, and if you're not getting 100%, you know, just start doing the troubleshoot process. Figure out if, you know, there's a belt that's being a bottleneck. You probably already saw that I just said screw it and just put like Mark III belts all along here, all around. That will do it. But if you're kind of short on materials, that you probably need to be a little bit more precise. But definitely the first thing to check is the belts or the conveyor lifts. Make sure those aren't causing a bottleneck. But yeah, this is our subfloor. We even got like little fans here. I'm using my black and orange theme. You also probably noticed that the machines are colored differently, so I used it to match my channel theme here. So we got black with orange trim now, and you just do that by changing this swatch into whatever you want. So you don't need like orange, like black and orange like I'm doing. You can come up with your own color scheme. This is just the color scheme I came up with because it matches my channel's theme. So yeah, now we're on the main floor. So here we have our steel beam production. So we're still 100% there. Should still be 100% here. Nice. And then we have our steel pipe production here. And yeah, we should once again be 100% all around here. And we got some more ventilation fans. We got like we got our staircase here. We even have a ladder up here to get up to these machines that are going to remain dormant until, you know, we need to produce more pipe, more steel pipe. And we may yet need to, but since we already have pretty much a full container of steel pipe and also a truck station full of steel pipe, we'll determine later if we actually need more steel pipe production. I'm jumping around all over the place. And here's our encased industrial beam production. So still 100% there. And 100% here. So that tells us we did our calculations right. We were using the right belts and everything. So that's good. And then our encased steel beams are steel pipe and steel beams up here. They're all heading outside in these conveyors to the truck stations. And you'll also notice that I upgraded to these industrial storage containers, so they hold double the amount of what's in these containers here. I also added this container as a buffer for our coal, since that's going to act as our fuel source for our tractors and or trucks. But yeah, this is the main floor. I did also move the awesome sink over here, so it's kind of like more out of the way. We could definitely bring the belts over here and hook them up there, but we want to get the smart splitters. And I've been like debating whether or not I should get the smart splitters here, and I determined I should, just because, just to close out the factory, you know. And we got our nice roof up here, so it's nice and enclosed, but we don't have to worry about suffocating because we got our fans. So, all right, let's go out and head outside. So we have our truck stations here. So we have 3 truck stations for our components. So we have our, I think this is encased industrial beams. This is our steel beams. And these are our pipes. We're already full of pipes. So that's why I don't want to go too crazy on the pipes. I also unlocked these barriers here and also these patterns here. So to get those, just you can access these patterns, but you have to unlock them at the awesome shop first. And then these barriers, these are under architecture. So road barrier there. And it looks like there's something else. Corner road barrier. Huh, okay. Cool. But yeah, we got our truck stations all set up. We got fuel being pumped into them, and also our products that we're producing here at the factory. So yeah, that is the factory. Very last thing that I want to do before we call this an episode is we want to get the smart splitters going. And what I want to do, since we're dangerously close on getting since steel pipes are dangerously close to being overflowed, I'm just gonna put a regular splitter here and bring a belt down this way. We can put it in the middle, why not? And I'm going to put a merger. Let's put a merger here. Have it point towards the awesome sink. We actually want to make sure we're using the Mark IIs here, just in case we're completely backed up, or we get completely backed up of pipe. And then I want to use a Mark III belt here. Because we'll be hooking our pipe and our encased industrial beam into that merger. We could do it like that. That works. Okay, so for now, half of our pipes are going to go into the awesome sink. And we'll start producing more coupons there, which is nice. And that way we don't have to worry. See, this is already pretty much backed up. So in order to keep these machines running, because what we don't want to do is we don't want all these machines to be backed up where they go to idle, and then we build more stuff to the point where we're maxed out on power, and then when these like start up again, then we blow a fuse or something. So that's why we want to do it like this, to kind of stabilize our power grid, or just make our power grid more predictable. But we'll replace that splitter with a smart splitter, which is what we'll do now. So in order to unlock the smart splitters, we need Caterium. So there's a Caterium node around here, and we'll just build a small Caterium factory where we'll produce quick wire and just store those in a container for now. Still got 2 Nobilis left, so should be able to destroy that. And we should be able to put a miner on top of there. We'll just use the Mark 1. Since this is a pure node, it'll give us 120 per minute. That's more than enough. Okay, and we'll get the power later. So we want smelter to produce our ingots. Actually, let's make this a little prettier using foundations, actually. So yeah, what we're doing here is a load balancer. We got 120 coming in. It's being split 3 ways. So we'll have 40, 40, 40 going in, which means we need to underclock this so that way it's down to 40 instead. So if we do 40 divided by 45, that should be 88. Yep. So if you just do 88.888889, there we go. And we could close out of this, Control C the copy, and then paste that into the machines. So 13.333 divided by 12 is 1.111. So this should be 111%. 13.32. What if we did just 11111? There we go. Now we got it. So yeah, we could just overclock these a little bit so we get 13 going in. So let me go ahead and copy these settings, and then, or actually we don't need to do that. We can just do the eyedrop method here. And then we just align these perfectly with the smelters. Because if we combine them all together and then put them in a container, that container is going to fill up really quick. But if we have 3 of them like this, then they're not going to fill up as quick. And this will probably be the most quick wire we'll ever need in the game. So once we fill all these up, we could probably just shut this place down. All right, I think our design is sound. Now we just need to connect. We need to grab a power pole, bring the power down here, which we don't have to go very far because we got power all the way down here. Wire's too long. Okay, so to unlock AI limiters, we need 200 quick wire, and I've got 120 so far, but I'm going to let this run for a minute, and so I can get tons of quick wire. I need lots and lots of quick wire. Okay, so let's just head into the MAM, and it should be Alien Tech Caterium. And now we could get the AI limiters. You also need the sheets, but we should have tons of those. The copper sheets, that is. We can also get the power switch. Oh.
AI limiter recipe unlocked. New Caterium research available.
Now we should be able to create the AI limiters in here, I think. Yeah. So I think we need 10 of these to unlock the next thing. And I made 25. Well, we need extra anyways in order to make the smart splitters. You can also unlock this power switch thing. That's actually pretty helpful. But let's go ahead and unlock the smart splitter. So these need enforced iron plate, rotors, and then the AI limiters. So we just need to nab some more rotors and some reinforced iron plate. We could bring it. Let's bring it to the center here. All right, so looking at the splitter this way, center output, we want none. Left output, we want overflow, and then right output, any. Okay, now we can put our Mark II back. And then we can connect that back. And that should work. Okay, so now what's going to happen is, let's say we get a truck coming in. Oh, this ain't working, actually. See, this one... Okay. The left output was supposed to be overflow, and the right output was supposed to be any, but as you can... Oh, because I'm using the center. Wow, I'm dumb. Okay. Okay, now we're working. Like so. So center output, any left output will do overflow. And then we'll use a Mark II. Have that come all the way down here. Into our merger there. And now we'll do right output is going to be overflow. And then we can use a Mark I for this. Since the production rate's really slow. And we'll put it in the steel pipe merger here. All right, you guys. Well, that is steel production done. We did a lot in this episode. I actually compacted about, I think, almost 14 hours of gameplay into this. And that wasn't just making the steel factory. That was also like unlocking some things, getting the reanimated SAM and the SAM fluctuators and getting the dimensional depots, and then making that makeshift Caterium factory so we can have some Caterium wires so we can make the smart splitters. So we did a ass ton of stuff in this episode. So this may end up being a longer episode, but you know, I got to condense all that down. I try to shoot for no more than an hour and a half, but these episodes have been longer. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of things I'm going to have to just skip, but you know, don't worry. I will leave a link in the description so you can download the save game for this. So if you are kind of like following along, you're getting frustrated that, you know, I'm not explaining stuff well enough, or I didn't cover things in depth, you can always use that save game and then kind of just reverse engineer what I did with the factory here. And, you know, hopefully you're also doing this by yourself and learning. You're gonna run into the issues of things getting backed up. You're gonna run into issues, and you're gonna have to learn how to troubleshoot those. You know, starting with the belts, and then making sure each machine is configured properly, and, you know, it's outputting and inputting the numbers that you expect. So, you know, it's definitely a learning curve to play this game. You have to, it's a lot of arithmetic, a lot of math involved, and to making sure that everything runs properly and smoothly. So, you know, definitely use the save games. I can't cover the whole playthrough in episodes, in like 1 hour episodes. Otherwise there'd be 300 episodes of this. So I have to condense it down. And so I'm not going to be able to cover everything I want to cover, or what, you know, you got to cover. And also I encourage you to do some exploring. I will also leave a link in the description for the interactive map, so you can find things like the Mercer Spheres, the hard drives, the Somersloops, and all that good stuff. Because we're gonna need all of those now from here on out. So yeah, next episode, what we're gonna do now that we have the Mark II miners and the Mark III belts, we're gonna go back to the coal power plant, add another 16 generators, and boost our power up to 2.4 gigawatts. And that should do us for power for quite a bit. We also need to make our versatile framework factory as well. So yeah, next episode, be on the lookout. Next episode, we're gonna make our versatile framework factory, and then we're also gonna upgrade our coal power plant as well, and maybe start on the motor plant. We need the motors to make the other phase 2 component there. I forget what they are called. If I see phase 2, yeah, so we'll need the motor factory to make our last phase 2 component there. I forget what it's called, so sorry about that. I'll flash it in a text box on the screen here once I do figure it out. But anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much, you guys, for watching. If you liked the episode, go ahead and hit the like button. And also, please remember to subscribe and support the channel. I really appreciate your support. And, you know, also subscribing helps you to know when new content is available for you. So when the next Satisfactory episode comes out, you'll be informed of when that comes out. So, yep, that's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.